We're back seeking truth, and we're talking about Deborah and her story and being called by God to lead Israel's people after, they fall again. But we are thankful that, God did that for them and that he does it for us
yes,
daily, hourly sometimes. I guess we'll just get into talking about Deborah and just she was the only female judge, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty amazing that he would call a woman
Right, exactly.
in that time,
Yeah.
And prophetess. So
and prophetess.
she was
that's
more
right.
than just a judge. She was hearing from God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, and I think the justice that she was showing in all her rulings would draw people in.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't seeking her own agenda.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
That's
And that's
always
huge.
important.
That's huge even for today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that
Yeah.
we're doing whatever God has called us to do and
Right.
for God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's just huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes we can be doing what we're supposed to be doing for God, and then on the side we're thinking, well, if I do a little bit like this, maybe I can,
Yeah.
But when we can be full on for God and obeying what He's doing, then we can reach a lot of
Lead
people's
the
lives.
rest.
Yeah, and
Lead the
she
rest out,
took that call, and you talked about her being a prophetess, and that is somebody that speaks the word of God,
Yeah.
and he is with her, right? He's sharing that so that she can in turn speak it, and sort of, I think one of the words I said was she is the mouthpiece of God.
Yes.
And so, and she used that as well as being a judge. She, had the
That's
wisdom and the understanding how things were supposed to be.
Right.
We go back to when we talk about judge, we go back to the law, the 10 Commandments, right? And then I think I was talking to Pastor Zeb yesterday. We were talking about a different subject on Paul, but there's like 666, I don't know, 600 and something.
Yeah, the extra ones that
the ones that explain that those are the laws. These are the commandments. These are the laws. And so, can you imagine, in your own mind, trying to keep track of every little caveat, every little item that was required, because there was a lot of tradition, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to say ritual, but what would you call that? Would you say ritual? Would you use that word? And what they were required to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad. I mean, I'm not saying bad rituals. I'm just saying this
steps you would have to follow.
Yeah, steps you would have to follow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so I mean, she gets called by God, and then is with Barak. Barak. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when one of the things the Holy Spirit pointed out to me is really to go back and read the written word, and if it makes literal sense, then to take from it. So sometimes it'd be a little quickening to go back and check something.
Yeah.
And what I found was, how God's such a God of order. Judges 4:4 reads, "And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time." So the order of that was her name.
Yeah.
She was a prophetess. That was
Yes.
her spiritual calling from God. She was the wife of Lapidoth, and she judged Israel. That was like an occupation.
Right? Yes.
And they're all important. He
Yes.
named them all. But her name, who she was the most important in the order. So your name is the most important in the order to God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had raised her up to bring strategy for freedom, because they had been under that oppression for 20 years already. And if she hadn't been obedient, and obedience is just key, that's what we got from it.
That's right.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, obedience was the key point. After we got through all the information and everything, it boiled down to obedience.
Right.
Yeah.
She did what God told her to do, and that had to be, she couldn't look back at her history before her and see another woman that had been in this position. So this was her first time. And sometimes we can be in that first time position.
Yeah.
And, don't look back at the history to see what God's going to do, because he'll do a new thing.
That's right. And he's going to do a new thing anyway, isn't he?
bold.
Whatever he's called you to do
Right.
is going to be what he's called you to do.
Yeah.
Not what the other person did, but
Right.
what you do.
Yeah, he's walking with you in the present.
Yeah.
He's walking you through it. He's right next to you. He's not, in the past to just be like, okay, you got this.
Yeah.
Learn from
Yeah.
this. No, he's with you every step of the way.
Yeah. Because things change.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think she inspired people back to the God ordained, because she was hearing from God, and she would inspire others to take up their God ordained positions.
Yeah.
And eventually that came around to speaking to Barak. But I thought about, not only did she, talk him up, not call him out, but talk him up.
Yep.
But she had to also come against the fear that was in him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go if she wasn't going to go with them. So she had to deal with that. And as women, sometimes with, the men in our lives, it might be something that we need to consider that, okay, this is a situation where I need to talk him up.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, many times you put men in a place where they're the ones that are not fearful. They're the ones that have the strength. They're the ones that can go out and, when you hear a noise, they have to be the one to go outside, right?
Yeah.
And because that was one of the things I really thought about Deborah, and her coming to the place where God had called her to turn around, and she knew they were going to go into battle. It wasn't her battle, but she was going to call the person, Barak, to come into, come on into town, hey, come on into town. He hadn't come yet. She had to call him.
Yes.
Because he was the general, right, of the Israelite army?
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody like that you definitely think of as fearless, strong, but it's okay that he did have a little bit of fear with him, and that he turned to her and, wanted to feel that peace from God.
He had something. Well, he must have known truly that she
was hearing
from God. I mean, she wouldn't have called him had she not heard that.
And he wouldn't have come if he didn't want to.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he knew that it was going to be him leading the charge, which was huge after 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
To, face your enemy in battle, but he had a lot of faith in her faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I said when we were talking, it was almost like she was his helpmate. In a sense, she was married. He was, I'm sure he probably was too. But to think that, you were like you said, lift them up, encourage, be willing to walk alongside. I think all of those things were huge and even for him to admit.
Yeah.
And knowing that he wanted someone that was going to that was called by God, that had told him, you're going to win the battle, but you got to go in, right? You have to go in. And that's that's a lot to take in, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very great example. I mean, looking at it for nowadays, remembering that we do, like you were saying, that we need to not just call people out, but bring them up, build them up, and strengthen them, really.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do for each other?
It is.
Is strengthen each
Encourage
other.
one
Because not
another.
everybody is strong at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we do need that little extra.
Yeah, even the strong need help.
That's right. Absolutely. Because sometimes we get a little down too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get a little down in the heart.
And then I thought about also, when David faced Goliath, there is no victory without that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so Barak was fixing to go into battle. And looking back at what David had said, is there not a cause? That Deborah had to know there was a cause.
Yeah.
She had been hearing complaints, judging complaints, and resolving issues for 20 years.
Yeah.
Under that palm tree, out in the open, between two cities, like in the middle, between two sides.
Right.
She balanced that. So I know that she recognized the cause, and with the Lord speaking to her and knowing that he had spoke to Barak.
Right.
Yeah.
And you made a comment about her going into the battle as well, and because he did not want to go into it by himself. Right. There's a verse that says that. Where is that?
She went up on Mount Tabor with him, and they waited to get the instruction from her. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Barak asked her. He said to her, "If you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go."
And she said, I surely will go with you. And there's a little bit more on there, but
Yeah.
we can talk about that as well. But he knew, well, it's almost like when, remember how Moses, wasn't it Moses that held up the,
Oh yes.
the-
Held up
the
staff.
staff.
And then you have.
or was it Moses or Joshua? Anyway,
No.
was it Moses that held up the staff and the battle went on, and as long as he held it up,
Oh.
Was
maybe.
that-
So
Yes.
people were lifting his.
Yeah.
for people
So yeah, people were supporting his arm.
supporting
so that
his
he could
arm,
Keep his...
I apologize for throwing that out there, but
No.
it's kind of the same thing. He,
Mhm.
as long as she was standing there, he felt God's presence was going to be there,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know. But she only went so far.
Right.
Yeah.
She only
Right.
went so far,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but she was there as a presence as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I thought that was a point that I wanted us to think about.
Oh yeah.
And so, don't
you
we
know-
always need sometimes we need a friend to stand beside us when we're
We
going
do.
through something.
Yeah. Even just standing there in silence sometimes. just
Exactly.
that presence of a friend is helpful.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. He did not
Right.
want us to go this world alone,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And we don't have to look far to see the needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
we really don't.
I know.
And